Hello, welcome. Gonna do some stuff here real quick. Take our music down. I'll just turn it off. There we go. Okay, welcome. I hope you're having a lovely day under quarantine. I figured this would be another thing we'll do. For my students as well as for my friends who are interested in this stuff. There are some. So today we're going to watch a film called The Stranger. And I gotta turn this off. A little reverb there in my signal. And The Stranger is a movie made in here. Let me put that up, and we'll come back to this film theory circle there. The Stranger was made in 1946. Orson Welles is the director. And really, before you can start talking about anything about Orson Welles, you got to talk about Orson Welles and the influence that he had on cinema. He would fall into one of the theories we talk about, and that is auteur theory. Let me zoom in a little bit if I can here. A theory of filmmaking in which the director is viewed as the major creative force in the motion picture. And there's a lot of auteurs, some more successful than others. And at the height of Orson Welles' success, basically, let's talk about auteur real quick. That's when a director usually is the writer, is usually the producer, is usually the creative vision behind the whole thing. And we can look back in history. You could call Hitchcock an auteur. You could call Scorsese an auteur. Francis Ford Coppola. On and on and on. It's not really as common today so much. A lot of the directors are hung up about the money. And even though I guess there's a few, I won't go too far down that road with but the big issue nowadays, obviously, in modern filmmaking is box office. And even though that was obviously a concern during the 40s and 50s and before that, it was a little bit more of a, I guess, you had more leeway. And you had somebody like Orson Welles who, look at Orson real quick. Obviously, his claim to fame was Citizen Kane, but before that, it was actually doing crazy radio programs. The big legend about how he freaked everybody out with doing a radio presentation of War of the Worlds, where they made it sound like it was an actual news broadcast, even though if you listen to it, it's pretty obvious that it was just people are just silly. Anyway, that's kind of where he made his big mark with those two things. Citizen Kane was and is on my top 10 movies of all time, and it feels dated now when you watch it, but when you realize all the things that went into it, and what Orson Welles was able to accomplish, it's a pretty fascinating piece of film history. I always suggest people watch it. It needs to be watched if you're a studier of things film. Let's talk a little context about The Stranger, the film The Stranger itself. This is post World War II. And it was also during a time frame where not just the studios, but all of America was reeling and trying to come back from the war. And it was also a time when the fascist Nazis out of Germany were scattered like cockroaches across the world. And there was a big effort, not just in this country, but all across the world, to try to find some of these people. They went to Argentina and Brazil, and there's all sorts of stories and historical aspects to what happened to all those Nazis that fled Germany after the war. This film kind of touches on that quite a bit. In fact, obviously it's a fictional film. They try to make the character, and you'll see as we watch it, they make the character of Orson Welles, and you'll see like one of the masterminds of the Holocaust. And it played well in the theater, but obviously it's a little loose with the facts. Another interesting thing, Edward G. Robinson is in this film. And we're going to talk about protagonist, antagonist stuff in a little while in relationship. Edward G. Robinson typically played the heavy. He typically played a straight antagonist character. And usually it was a gangster or a bad guy or something. And I guess there's a few movies that I'm aware of, not many, where he actually is the so-called protagonist in this sense. But again, when we start talking some of the details of this film, we'll break some of that down, because obviously you'll see what I mean, who the protagonist and who the antagonist kind of gets moved around in this. And it's classical sense. There's good guy, bad guy is not always the antagonist and the protagonist in those things. This is a screenplay by Anthony Wheeler. I'm pretty sure Orson Welles, but let me double check. I'm pretty sure he had something to say about it. Yeah, he did some of the writing, uncredited here. And John Huston, another director, pretty famous. Loretta Young, in her prime here, is also in this film. None of these other folks are too worth talking about that I can see that I know of. I'm sure somebody knows about them. It's a great movie. It's about an hour and a half. If the stream dies, well, if it's further along, I probably won't restart. But if it's in the middle or something, I've got a big fan trying to cool off the machine. As I said the other day, I got all this stuff running into it, and it kind of overheats it some. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to say. Let's talk about this. Let's look at this little thing real quick, and we'll bring it up and bring it into talk about some of these things. If you're one of my students, especially, this is what you'll need to focus on if you compare and contrast this to the other films that we've been watching. This is definitely a classical type film. Professional actors, very little special effects. It is on location and in a studio, and you'll see that. There is some montage editing. I think there's not much. Lighting and sound is a big part of this as well, especially the lighting. Wells was known for a lot of innovative things, especially when it comes to shots, and so we'll look at some of those that come out. Again, if you watch Citizen Kane, there's all these wacky things they did, like cut holes in the set to get the camera all the way down on the ground, then putting it way up on a crane, all these things, which, became more and more common. But there's also something we'll talk about again when we can contrast it. There's a lot of wacky angles in this, and you'll see why when we get deeper into the film. Lighting is really key to this. Obviously, this is a black and white, so we're not going to worry about that. We're going to kind of skip around these things. We'll focus over here on the warm tones of film analysis. Here, sorry, this thing kind of going wacky. If we look at the genre here, we'll see they've got it crime, drama, and film noir again. There's that film noir. again, it misses some of the tropes that we think about when we think about film noir, and mostly I would say it falls in that film noir because, again, Orson Welles, he did a thing called The Third Man. It was a film before this film. That was in the 30s. And it most definitely falls into that category of film noir. So there may be one reason. Again, it's missing a lot of tropes. There's no, I guess Edward G. Robinson could be seen as the detective-looking guy, but again, you'll have to decide that for yourself. See what you think. Well, now that I'm really thinking about it, Loretta Young does kind of fall into that femme fatale characterization as well. So we'll see. Anyway, wait a second. This isn't my kitchen. No, it's not your kitchen. It's not your kitchen. Sorry. I can cook you something, though, if you're hungry. I would have to leave it out on the driveway for you to come pick up. But anyway, let's get started. Without further ado, The Stranger. And again, we can watch this because it's public domain. I've got several 6-foot poles. I got a 10-foot pole as well, and some rope in my dungeon kit. Does the audio sound okay from the film?
That's all there is to it. Let him escape. In my view, it's all very irregular. It might entail the most embarrassing repercussions.
Exactement. Certainly. It's a responsibility of the first magnitude.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wilson, but you must
Blast all this discussion. What good words? I'm sick of words. Hang the repercussions of responsibility. If I fail, I'm responsible. Leave the cell door open. Let him escape. Let him. It's our only chance. Remember, you're threatening me with the bottom pits of hell. And still I insist. This obscenity must be destroyed. You hear me? Destroyed.
Nice camera movement to that insert. That was good. Something you'll notice, especially a lot of these film noir films, and again, one of the tropes that we associate with it is that there's some non-diegetic narration that usually starts it. We don't have that with this film. In fact, I'm trying to think if Orson Welles ever used non-diegetic sounds besides music, orchestration. How's that?
I don't understand.
You business in this country, senora.
I'm joining my husband.
Next, please.
Is that better?
Stefan Polaski.
Had two sources in OBS.
How? I am traveling for my health. Oh. You are a native of what country? Hola. Trata permanecer. Next, please. ¿Para qué vino usted a este país, señor?
Obviously, there's some. This has a noir look. Again, hard contrasts.
¿Qué pasó?
Yo lo voy voy a seguir a pie, tú vete en el carro.
Oh, bien.
One thing this is not, though, is a mystery. You'll figure that out later. Awesome shot. This is classic film noir, for sure.
Hello? Yes.
Right there.
You haven't lost him. You're sure you know where he's going?
Those books
wife is following
were
him.
some
He's
foreshadow.
going to the photographer's. Probably to get a new passport and new instructions. Hold it. I wish to know the whereabouts of Franz Kindler.
Interesting effect shot there.
Franz Kindler.
It's for the old school
There
days
is no
of
Franz Kindler.
that was a
Franz Kindler is
probably a
dead
double over
and cremated.
mat.
I have a message for Franz Kindler from the old heist. It is forbidden. I command you in the name of that authority.
Looks like Roger Stone right there. He would definitely be a Nazi.
You know the name he is using?
Got my green tea. Feeling good. Killing Nazis.
Connecticut. In the United States. The town of Harper.
Nice fade. Fade in. Great use of that technique of scene change.
Harper! Oh. Excuse me.
The hotel gave me a room that was so small. Every time I closed the door, the knob got in bed with me. And you know how cold those brass doorknobs are on a winter night. I had so many blankets.
Good
in my
afternoon.
bed, I had to
Good
use a
afternoon.
book to find a place to get
Have a
in.
nice trip?
You know, it got so
Yes,
cold
thank
that
you.
at 4 o'clock in the morning, I got up and lit a
Quite a
fire.
story you have here,
You
Mr.
never had a fire in your night, did you?
Potter.
But I got
That's
up
me.
The place
We
was
sell
just
about
so
everything
relaxed.
here.
The two of them started fighting. Well, the manager, I said, hey, there's two rats fighting in this room. He said, what do you want for $1.25? A bullfight? About 7 o'clock in the morning.
Gentlemen, do not deface the walls. Use this notepad. It's pretty cool. Very, very I can't think of the word. Fits in time. That's it.
This suitcase, I could leave it here? Send his bag home. Oh, yeah, I don't assume no responsibility. Just put it up on the shelf. It'll be there when you want it. That'll be in time, mister.
I think Mr. Potter would get mad if he defaced any walls in
Best place
his
to stay is down
shop.
Miss Peabody's. It's just down the road here a piece. This way, mister. Yes, thank you.
That's not suspicious at all. Great camera movements. Again, rigged up, jibbed, lifts it up. Okay, this is a wacky scene, and I am no expert at gymnasium equipment by any means, but it seems rather convoluted, this scene right here. I mean, I guess that's a big old iron thing. He's just such a great shot with it. It's crazy. Knocked him cold out, though. Yeah, exactly. He rolled a 20.
I may come in?
Yes, of course.
Now, why just let him, some stranger, in your house?
Mr. Charles
Gee
Rankin
whiz,
here.
lady. What are you
Yes, he
thinking?
does, but he isn't here right now.
You expect him?
Yes, in a few minutes.
How soon?
Well, a few minutes.
A few minutes. I may... I may wait here?
No, you're a stranger. Get out of my house. Come on,
Yes,
lady.
if you like. Would you like to sit down?
Thank you.
Lord. This would not happen today.
You a friend of Mr. Rankin's?
Yes, a friend.
I'm Mary Longstreet. How do you do?
How do you do?
Mr. Rankin ought to be here now. Sometimes he stays after his last class, but he'll be coming straight here today, I'm sure. Because this is our wedding day.
You're getting married?
Yes, at 6
Oh.
o'clock. I know it's most unconventional, my being here today, but I want to get these curtains up.
Oh.
When he comes, which way does he come?
My, from Webster Hall. It's the big dome building right over there, you see?
I shall meet him.
Well, who shall I say that
Crossfade. Nice crossfade. Continuing the scene into a new scene, but
Franz,
connecting them.
it's I, Franz.
What a handsome young man
We
Mr.
must
Orson
be
Welles
safe
was.
together. Go back to the church, into the woods, you understand? Follow the path. I'll meet you there.
Hello, Professor Rankin.
Hello, man. What are you up to?
Paper chase.
Oh, paper chase?
I go ahead and lay the trail.
You ought to have Jerry's job, Mr. Rankin. Take a little off that waistline.
No, you ought to go with us, Mr. Rankin.
Oh, you're
too.
fat. Is that what they're saying? What a bunch of jerks. Golly, what a bunch of jerks.
Well, I'd like
Ugh.
to. I'm afraid I have a couple of things to attend to.
Well, join us later. We'll be out till dark.
Yeah, I could see that. I could
we'll
see
catch
Leo
up with you.
playing him in some sort of biopic. The problem with it was, at the end of his career and his life, he was kind of a pariah, much like myself. He ended up doing a lot of wine commercials. There's some really funny audio of him messing up a bunch of commercials
Meinecke. Yes, Meinecke.
because he was so drunk.
I thought I had been hanged. The others, but not I. Had that meant
There's some really great
face to
filmmaking
face
right
with you,
now.
friends.
And,
Not much
and
changed. You're back in your old uniform?
it's a little hot.
Look very
It's
much
not,
the same.
and that's
I am a
the time of
different
day I'm
man
sure
than
they're shooting
before.
with the cameras they're shooting.
I too.
Yeah, he was funny.
I too am different,
Um,
Conrad. You know how I gathered and destroyed every single item in Germany and Poland that might have served as
It's
a clue to my
tracking
identity. Well,
into
guess
this
what I'll be doing at
really
6 o'clock
cool
tonight? Standing before the
effect
minister of the gospel
of
with a
the
woman's hand in mine, the
shadow
Supreme
of the leaves on the
Justice
ground.
of
And
the United
again,
States
that's
Supreme
a
Court, famous
real
look.
classic
The girls even got to
noir
look at.
look.
Yes, the camouflage is perfect. Who would think to look for the notorious Franz Kindler in the sacred precincts of the Harper School, surrounded by the sons of America's first families? And I'll stay hidden till the day when we strike again.
Franz, there will be another war?
Of course.
Fascists never give up.
War is an abomination, saved the Lord. It is to tell you this that I am here. He set me free that I
Set
might
you
come
free?
here and tell.
Who set
tell
you
these
free?
things to you. The all highest.
You don't mean...
I mean God. Franz, I'm a new man since I found you.
You, Conrad, religious.
Franz, all
The
doors are open to
reframing
me. All
of this
doors.
whole walk as
It
the
was
camera
one
moves
of
in and
God's
out and up and
miracles.
down and starts getting closer and closer. It's fantastic.
They freed you so you'd lead them to me. Have you been followed? Were you followed here?
Yes.
Who followed you?
The evil one. He looked like any other man. He was dressed like any other man. He even smoked a pipe. But I recognized him through his disguise. And I killed him. Striking from on high down. God's will be done.
You killed him, the man with the pipe? The man who followed you? No one else followed you? Hmm?
You must be brought to salvation, Franz. Confess your sins as I have. Proclaim your guilt. Only thus you can attain salvation.
Those prison ministers
You
got to
really think so, Conrad?
It will take strength. Such strength as can come only from God. Kneel by me, Franz. And together we will pray to him to give you strength.
Okay, just very cool camera stuff.
I have sinned
This
against
shot,
heaven
one long continuous
before
shot.
thee.
No edits or
I am
cuts
not
in it
worthy
at
to be
all.
called thy son. Say these words after me. I despair of my sins.
I despair of my sins.
O God of all goodness, how could
God.
I ever have offended thee?
Of all goodness.
I didn't do it this time. Aaron's not here, but that's one murder. One down. Yeah, and again, interesting. The thing is, the argument could be made. He is the protagonist. He's the focus of the whole narrative. But he obviously is not a good guy. So there's that spinning it around and twisting antagonist, protagonist. He's such a great actor. He was an auteur. He's a genius.
This way, fellas.
I have
Dearly
no clue.
beloved, we are gathered together here in the sight of God and in the face of this company,
Murder in the morning,
joined together
wedding
this man
in the
and this
evening.
woman in holy matrimony. And forsaking all others, keep thee only unto her, so long as ye both shall live. Mary, wilt thou have this man for thy wedded husband, to live together after God's ordinance in the holy estate of matrimony? Wilt thou love him, comfort him,
Remember
honor
we
and
were
keep
talking
him
in the other film,
in sickness
we
and
didn't
in
see a
health,
lot of over the
and
shoulders in that
forsaking all
Sherlock
others,
Holmes
keep
film.
thee only unto him so long
You're
as
going
he
to get
shall live.
overwhelmed with over the shoulders in this. And it was new establishing shot, by the way. It was
Afternoon. Afternoon.
very noticeable in that Sherlock Holmes film
Wedding?
that there was not
Yeah.
a lot of those.
Judge Longstreet's daughter. He's Supreme Court Justice, you know. Bottle of aspirin, please. Right back there, third shelf down from the top. You'll see the big ones on the left, the economy size. You have to get it yourself, mister. Right back there.
It's
All
just
your needs are
so
on our
weird
shelf.
seeing Edward G.
Just look
Robinson
around, help
play
yourself.
the good guy, which again,
Right
let's
in
make
there,
this
right in
argument,
one.
because he's
That's
not
it,
the
that's
focus
it.
of the narrative.
Down to Mrs. Peabody?
That
Few
makes,
days only.
again, we could argue about it.
Two, please.
Who's the good guy and the bad guy? Obviously, he's the good guy, but is he the protagonist?
Self-service.
Yeah, he's definitely usually a heavy,
Yes.
a mobster, gangster or something.
No limit on the cream. All the people around here take it black.
Yeah, definitely. And he's a character for sure. He has a character's face.
Oh, thank you. Who is Miss Longstreet marrying?
One of the teachers down at school.
Very unique
A
face.
stranger in town.
I issued the license.
Oh.
Yep. I'm town clerk. Checkers? All right. Town clerk, huh? Yep. Well, that must be quite a responsibility. Oh, town clerk runs the town, you might say. Yeah. We usually make it for...
This guy's a really good actor too.
Mhm.
And even
We
in this
often play as
bit
high
part
as
that he has.
25 cents a game. Well, that's kind of stiff for me, but I'll take a flyer. Make a million, lose a million. That's the way it goes. I move. All right. Well, you must know just about everybody in town here. Not just about. Know everybody. You're on business? Mm-hmm. School business? Oh, no. Selling something? Oh, no. Buying? Oh, antique dealer. They all come to Harper. Judge Longstreet's got the best collection in these parts. Won't do you no good, though. No, I don't suppose he'd sell. Happen to know there are any other out-of-town buyers here? Let me... Come to think of it, there's a fella come in this morning. Yeah? Came on the same bus with you. All right. Left a suitcase here, never did come back for it. He might have been one of them. No. No, he was more of the missionary type. Wasn't in here but a minute, just looked in the phone book. Tiny little fella he was, thinnish, unfortunate looking. Hurt your head, mister? No, nothing serious. Oh, that's too bad. It's a game you got to keep your mind on. 25 cents, please.
Money.
I won't pretend I'm not disappointed,
Hello,
Jeff.
Father. Has anybody seen my brand new husband?
Don't tell me he's deserted you already.
Yes, looks as if the brute. Listen, Red, have you seen Charles? No, you go find him for me. Go on, go find Charles. Hurry up.
Great high, super high bird's eye view angle. great use of it too. Usually has purpose and meaning to use that angle.
I've looked everywhere for him, Mary, and I can't find him.
Oh, I wonder where he could be. I'm getting worried.
Are you, darling? What about?
Charles, you've changed.
Don't you think you'd better? After all, aren't we supposed to be going on a honeymoon or something?
Give me 5 minutes.
That wasn't suspicious at all. Not at all. Yeah, you know, Orson Welles is the master of it. Frames. Where do you pointing at? Where are you sitting all the things at in this frame? Really nice jib shot. I mean, again, just following it up. And now we're gonna start seeing all these really harsh upper and lower angles.
No, I was just cleaning around it.
It adds to the distance and the element.
Beautiful.
Yes.
My name's Wilson.
Oh, I'm Longstreet, Noah Longstreet.
I'm glad to know you.
Mr. Wilson?
I couldn't judge any too well out front, but I'd say it was late 16th century, probably by Hobrecht of Strasbourg. The clock.
Well, I wouldn't know. My brother-in-law's going to work on it.
Is he up there now?
No.
Using
He's
the
on
ladder
his
and the
honeymoon.
frame.
He plans to work on it when he gets back.
Oh. Is he an expert?
Well, yes, but it's really more of a hobby
ATSs?
with him.
Really? Well, it is with me, too. Honeymoon?
Yes. He and my sister. He has to be back on Friday because of the examinations.
Oh.
He's one of the teachers at the school. His name is Rankin.
Oh?
It's nice to be able to show it to someone who knows what Revere Silver's all about.
Yeah.
But personally, my specialty is pewter.
Bunch
Oh,
of
yes,
snobs.
pewter. The Revere workmanship, although sometimes heavy in design, almost invariably shows the sign of a master craftsman. It's beautiful.
Blah, blah, blah.
Hello, honey.
Mary,
Adam?
dear. Mr. Wilson, my daughter, Mary.
Oh, how do you do, Mr. Wilson? I'm
My
glad to see
son-in-law,
you.
Charles Rankin.
How do you do?
How do you do?
I hope you don't mind my intruding on your homecoming.
Good evening, Mary.
Jeff, how are you?
Fine. You're looking good.
Welcome home, Miss Mary, dear.
Sarah. Oh, Sarah, you sweet thing.
If you don't sit down, it'll get cold.
Come on, Jen.
I'm so glad.
Judge?
Well, sister, how are the mountains?
They were perfectly marvelous. Mr. Wilson, will you come sit over here on my right? Jeff, your usual place, and down on your right there.
A lot of context about to be given here.
Absolutely wonderful.
Not quite exposition.
Very.
A little bit, maybe.
You remember to keep your
But,
knees together and your apparatus in?
Yes, Freshie, I did.
Mr. Wilson here is compiling a catalog of Paul Revere silver.
How nice.
Mr. Wilson is also an authority on clocks.
Oh, really? That's Charles' hobby, too.
Yes, so your brother tells me. I understand you're going to fix the one in the church tower.
Oh, I may try.
Oh, that's quite an undertaking.
I'll show the kind of a wife I am. I hope he fails. I like Harper just the way it is, even to the clock that doesn't run.
Have you been at Harper long, Mr. Wilson?
Since Friday, a week ago.
Now, you lost today. I patched you up on Friday. By the way, how's the head?
Oh, very much improved, thanks to you, Doctor.
You were hurt on Thursday, remember? The day of the wedding.
Yes, that's right. Wednesday, I let Bangor.
You were hurt, Mr. Wilson?
Oh, nothing serious.
Well, serious enough to raise a bump on his head the size of a billiard ball.
The usual door.
Good thing you're back, sister. That dog of yours has been eating so
Well, all right, Red. Wait a minute. Here you are. This is for
Don't
missing.
feed dogs at the table. Goodness
Yeah, it's a
gracious,
big
where are
one.
your
How
manners?
was your meeting, Adam?
These aren't uppity people after all.
Foreign Policy Association.
I read that fellow's report.
Standish, yes.
I think he's full of prune.
Well, that's the way we used to talk in the 1930s, Noah.
Standish?
The London Times man in Berlin. Yes, of course, he was quoting rumors mostly. Men drilling by night, underground meeting places, pagan rituals.
Do you believe him, Paul?
Well, anything's possible.
I'm sorry, sir, but I think it's ridiculous. Well, there may be some fanatics, but no German in his right mind can still have a taste for war.
Do you know Germany, Mr. Rankin?
Do I know?
I'm sorry,
Germany?
I have a way of making enemies when I'm on that subject. It's pretty unpopular.
Well, we shall consider it the objective opinion of an objective historian.
Historian? A psychiatrist could explain it better. The German sees himself as the innocent victim of world envy and hatred conspired against, set upon by inferior peoples, inferior nations. He cannot admit to error, much less to wrongdoing. Not the German. We chose to ignore Ethiopia and Spain, but we learned from our casualty list the price of looking the other way. Men of truth everywhere have come to know for whom the bell tolled, but not the German. He still follows his warrior gods, marching to Wagnerian strains, his eyes still fixed upon the fiery sword of Siegfried. And in those subterranean meeting places that you don't believe in, the German's dream world comes alive, and he takes his place in shining armor beneath the banners of the Teutonic Knights. Mankind is waiting for the Messiah, but for the German, the Messiah is not the Prince of Peace. He's another Barbarossa, another Hitler.
Well, then you have no faith
Yeah,
in
Ben,
the reforms that are being effected.
It was a
in Germany.
formula they had to use to make
I don't know,
sure
Mr. Wilson.
that they were
I
getting
can't believe
good
that people
lighting.
can be reformed except from within. The basic principles of equality and freedom never have, never will take
amount
root
of
in
light,
Germany. The will to freedom has been
how
voiced
close
in every
the
other
lights
tongue.
were.
All men are created equal, liberté, égalité, fraternité, but in German, there's Marx. Proletarians unite, you have nothing to lose but your chains. But Marx wasn't a German, Marx was a Jew.
But my dear Charles, if we concede your argument, there is no solution.
Yeah, and they did
Also,
dailies
once
back
again,
then.
I'm
They
different.
developed pieces of the
What is it,
film
then?
overnight to look at the next day to make sure they were doing things
You're
right.
the last babe in arms.
Charles, I can't imagine you're advocating a Carthaginian peace.
Well, as an historian, I must remind you that the world hasn't had much trouble from Carthage in the past 2,000 years.
Well, there speaks our pedagogue.
Speaking of teachers, Mr. Wilson,
Yes, yes.
the faculty is coming for tea next Tuesday. If you have nothing better to do, would you like to join us?
Well, I'd like to, but my work here is finished. I'm leaving Harper tomorrow.
Extraordinary, isn't it? Clocks being Mr. Wilson's hobby, too.
Yes, isn't it?
Well, Red, how do you like your new house?
He loves it. Come here, Red. I think I'll take you for a walk. Come this way.
Oh, darling, you don't have to take him out. Just let him out. He won't run off.
All right. I need to walk. I'm restless. Come on, boy.
That's good. How are you coming along?
I'll be in Washington tomorrow afternoon. You were right about Rankin.
And such cool framing techniques.
He's above suspicion.
Here, Red. Red. Come here.
The scene is horrible.
Give me long distance. I want Washington, D.C.
Okay, buddy. Love ya. See you later.
Well, who but a Nazi would deny that Karl Marx was a German because he was a Jew? I think I'll stick around for a while.
Detective work. Epiphany in a dream. Oh, that guy's a racist.
What is it, dear?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was dreaming about that little man.
What little man?
Oh, you know, dear, I told you about him. He came here the day we were married. Light me a cigarette, would you?
Smoking in
I've never
bed.
had a dream like that before.
Kooky.
It frightened me. Thanks. You know, that little man was walking all by himself across a deserted city square. Wherever he moved, he threw a shadow. But when he moved away, Charles, the shadow stayed there behind him and spread out just like a carpet. Wish you could think who he might have been.
You're overtired.
Yes, perhaps. Here, dear, put this out, will you? What was that? Oh, that sounded like Red, Charles. What the world's the matter with him?
I put him in the cellar.
Oh, darling, no wonder he's howling. He's never been locked up in his entire life.
Red is to live with us. He must be trained. At night, he will sleep in the cellar. In the daytime, he'll be kept on a leash.
What a jerk.
Charles, I don't believe in dogs being treated like prisoners. Red's my dog.
Please, Mary. I know what's best.
Come on, Mary. Stand up to him. Get your dog out of the cellar. I wonder if she falls into the damsel in distress trope or the femme fatale trope.
Hi there, Red. What you gone to live with your mistress?
Oh, Mary brought him home. Said he howls all night.
Oh. Fishing any good in these parts?
Pretty fair. You like to come along?
Afraid I've got the wrong clothes on, but the fish probably won't mind. Thank you.
People sure are friendly in this town. Hey, just come on in my house. Oh, come on, let's just go fishing. I don't know you.
I'm just not lucky today, that's all. Would you like a candy bar?
Well, I don't mind if I do. Thank you. All your folks like fishing?
Oh, my dad's great. He always brings in something.
Well, what about Charles?
Charles? Oh. I have to call him Mr. Rankin at school. I get a little mixed up sometimes. He spends most of his time on the clock, you know.
Why don't you like him, Noah?
What do you mean?
Well, you don't like your brother-in-law. It's none of my business, but I wish you'd tell me why.
Well, I like him well enough. I don't know any reason why I shouldn't.
Don't tell me I'm butting in because I know I am, but I can't help myself. It's my business. I hate bringing you into this, Noah, but You're the only one I can turn to. I need your help very badly.
Well, what is it?
Your sister may be in great trouble. I know that you're man enough for what I'm going to ask you to do for her. The truth is, I'm not really an antique dealer. I'm sort of a detective.
Well, what do you want me to do, Mr. Wilson?
It would help me a lot if I knew every move Charles Rankin made on the day of his wedding, right up to the ceremony.
Well, I should be able to... Unless Charles realizes what I'm doing.
I'll keep him busy.
You just got him a junior detective.
Gee, Mr. Wilson, you must be wrong. Mary wouldn't fall in love with that kind of a man.
I hope I am wrong, Noah, but that's the way it is. People can't help who they fall in love with. Good evening, Mr. Potter.
Good evening, Mr. Wilson. 85 cents. Here you and Professor Ankton aim to fix the clock.
That's right.
Figured to tell time rightly?
Mm-hmm.
And will the angel circle around the belfry? Is that a man or woman angel, Mr. Wilson?
I don't know.
Well, reckon don't make much of a difference amongst angels.
Well.
Give up?
No. We'll play it out. That's my privilege, 25 cents.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, did Mr. Rankin pick up his supper this evening?
No. He generally gets through up there about now.
Oh. Yes, I know.
Gets dark early these days.
Little camera movement to do a reveal. Pretty neat. Gotta be paying attention.
Our little man never did pick up his suitcase, did he?
Nope.
Strange.
Ain't it, though? I've been tempted once or twice to look to see what's inside it. Ain't even locked.
Well, it seems to me that under the circumstances that you have a perfect right.
You do? Well, I wouldn't want to do it without a witness.
Oh, that's me.
It is? That's all I wanted to know. I'm trying to look in that thing to see if it's in there. Wonder what's in it.
Soil linen, sweater, soap, and a razor wrapped in a towel with SS Cristobal written across it. A pair of old shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing but religious pamphlets.
Yep, that's all.
Evening, Mr. Potter.
Oh.
Oh, hello, Mr. Wilson.
Hi, Mr. Wilson. Hi.
You, Mr. Rankin.
Mr. Potter and I have been poking our noses into somebody else's business. That suitcase. Some chap left it here, and he never did call back.
That's been more than 2 weeks ago.
Did he say what he was doing in Hartford?
No, looked in the phone book, didn't telephone. Kind of funny looking he was. A scrawny little feller with big, starry blue eyes. Had a queer walk. Like any second, he might break into a run.
Did he have a foreign accent?
Why, yes, he did. But not so much of an accent as a foreign way of talking.
Do you happen to know who he could be, Mrs. Rankin?
Why, no. I was just trying to complete your mystery for you. Don't all foreign strangers have to have a foreign accent?
Mm-hmm. It's the law.
Mary? Mary, have you seen Red?
Why, no. Not since I took him home to you a couple of days ago.
He's been spending all his time out in the woods, and he doesn't even come home for his meals.
But you told me he never ran away.
He never did.
No, that's why Noah's so anxious.
Come on, Mary.
Good night, Mr. Wilson.
Good night.
Night, Noah.
Night. Were you able to find out anything?
Meineke did go to Rankin's house, and your sister did see him.
Did Mary say so?
She started to. Now, your sister is a fine woman, Noah, but she must find out the kind of man she's married to.
You don't know Mary. She wouldn't listen to anything against him, much less believe.
Noah, we must arrange it so that she finds out for herself. You understand? One thing's certain, she knows nothing now, nothing at all. Except that he didn't want her to admit having seen someone she did see. I'd give something to know what explanation he's making right now.
I was a student in Geneva.
Cut to. Quick cut. No transition.
The night
other
before I
than a
was
cut.
to leave, we went out on the lake together.
Gives
She
you
told me unless
immediacy.
I promised to marry her, she'd never return to shore. Oh, I thought she was joking. Naturally, but she wasn't. Before I could stop her, she stood up in the boat. Well, I dived in after her, but it was too late. She was gone. Only one person knew we were on the lake together. Her brother. He knew I hadn't murdered her, but he told me he'd be willing to call it an accident for compensation.
Watch his hands move
Gave him
here.
all I had and left Switzerland. As the years went by,
You don't see him
allowed
speak,
myself
but
to
you
believe that the
still
dead
see
past
him
really
acting
was
with his
dead.
hands. Pretty
And then,
neat.
on our wedding day, Mary, he appears again. Her brother, the little man.
Another level of acting. Directing.
I gave him all the money I had in the world. And he went away again.
Darling, you should have told me. And not carried this awful thing around by yourself.
You're a very wonderful person, Mary. I love you very much.
Oh, Charles. Why didn't he go back for his things?
Well, I suppose once he had money, he could afford better. Darling, I'm terribly nervous. I think I'll work up in the clock alone tonight by myself. It will calm me. You understand, don't you?
Of course I understand.
Shall I walk you home?
No, dear, there's no need for that.
It's pretty late.
That's all right. And Harper, there's nothing to be afraid of.
I love you.
Poor old Red. He heard my whistle, I'll bet. He couldn't bark or anything.
Man.
He just crawled this far and died. Why do you think he died?
Let's go and find out.
Poor dog.
That's young Longstreet's dog, Red. Looks like he's dead to me.
Yeah.
They're taking him up to Dr. Lawrence's office. Would you know anything about it? Wonder what in the world's the matter with him? Checkers?
No, no thanks.
Cokes and nickel. Thanks, Mr. Rankin.
Nickel for a Coke. Wow.
Oh, Doctor, how long could the dog have lived with that amount of poison in it?
Oh, not more than a minute or so, I'd say.
Well, then Red must have been poisoned within a few hundred yards of where you found him, Noah. And the latter part of the distance, he must have been moving slower and slower. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thanks, Jeff.
Mr. Peabody, would you please get that magazine rack in and hurry up about it?
Yes, Mr. Carter.
Hurry up about it. Move along and... afternoon, Mr. Wilson. Afternoon, Noah. Bring him right in there. Will you please? Right in.
What does the law say about this kind of murder? Is it the same as killing a man? It ought to be. It's just as bad.
Forepaw's muddy. No mud on hind. Dry leaves mixed with the mud. Red must have been digging somewhere in the woods.
Have you any idea what for, Mr. Wilson?
The body, I think.
I think so too,
The little man.
because I saw it earlier. Such great shots, such great camera work.
Anything wrong? Wrong? Oh, you mean loading up like this? Yeah. Just going on a search. What you after?
Found a machine on what search?
For the body. State police deputized half the town. Just reach up there, fourth shelf.
Well, this is the news up in the clock tower. What body are they searching for?
I bet this fella left his bags here. Scrawny little duck. Unhappy looking. I knew he'd come to a bad end. And ought to be 15 cents, mister. Well, sir, I'll just put it on your account.
Oh, Sarah told me you're up here. Well, why are you packing? Are we going somewhere?
We aren't, dearest. I am.
What are you talking about?
As a rule, men leave their wives because they don't love them, but I must leave you because I do. Oh, you won't object once you know the kind of man you marry.
But you are the man I've married, and that's all that matters. Darling, I meant it when I said for better, for worse.
Even to killing Red.
Leave him now.
You couldn't. It was an accident.
No, I meant to kill him. Murder can be a chain, Mary, one link leading to another until it circles your neck. Red was digging at the grave of the man I killed. Yes, your little man.
You killed him?
With these hands.
And this is where she becomes the femme
The same
fatale.
hands that have held you close to me. Now are you satisfied?
No
to let
longer
me
the
go?
damsel in distress.
Why? Why did you do it?
I'd have given him all I had, but his dreams were far grander. He knew that your father was well-to-do. He knew that Justice Longstreet would be glad to protect his daughter from any scandal by paying a few $1,000s. Oh, Mary, I should have gone away and lost myself in a world where he could never find me, but I loved you, and I was weak.
Darling. If one of us goes, we'll both go.
Femme fatale.
You would have shared half my trouble if I'd had any. Charles, what is there to connect you with that man?
Nothing, actually. You're the only one that knows I knew him.
Well, then you need have no fear. If I'm the only one who can speak.
But Mary,
In failing to speak, you become part of the crime.
But I'm already a part of it. Because I'm a part of you.
You need to go to jail too, lady.
But you shuddered at the first touch of my hands as though it was the touch of death.
Because he's an evil fascist Nazi.
Oh, hold me close, Charles. Hold me
Who
close.
killed your dog?
Mr. Peabody, you go back to town with the sheriff and open up the coroner's office.
Yes,
I knew
sir.
darn well it was the same color. Of course, he's changed some. Being buried in the earth does it. Evening, Mr. Wilson. Evening, Noah.
Evening, Mr. Farmer.
Mess, ain't it?
What do we do about Mary? We can't leave her alone with him now, we know.
Well, she realizes now that whatever story he told her about Meineke was false. Noah, I think your sister should be ready to hear the truth.
Charles. Will they make me look at the body?
I shouldn't think so.
Because I couldn't do it. I mean, I don't think I could. See, I've never seen a dead person.
Many are having to tea, Mary.
28 altogether, I think, dear.
You didn't eat nothing at dinner.
Isn't that
You'll be
rather
fainting
a lot?
again, Miss Mary.
28 or just you, Sarah?
No.
Oh, we'll manage all right.
I suppose I should.
Should what?
I don't know. I mean, I'm terrified of seeing anybody or being seen.
Mary, you must get tight hold of yourself. If you're determined to go through with this thing, you must know beforehand exactly what you're going to do and say at all times. Perfect naturalness at all times. Now, darling, listen to me. Darling. I am prepared to go to the police.
It's your father, Miss Mary. He wants to talk to you.
Yes, thank you, Sarah.
I'm going to take a little break. Y'all just keep watching.
Hello? Yes, I think so. Just a minute and I'll see. He wants me to come over.
Did he ask me to?
Said he wanted to see me alone.
There's nothing unusual about a father wanting to see his daughter, is there? Is there?
No. All right, Adam, I'll be right over. Don't you think that's rather strange?
Strange? No, not strange. Tell you what I'll do. I'll go to the church and work on the clock while you're with your father. And you can buy and pick me up later.
I'm so afraid. He was so pointed as wanted to see me alone, and his voice sounded so different.
And you know what you're going to say, don't you?
Come in, Mary.
Is something wrong?
Mr. Wilson is here on a very serious matter. We must try to help him every way possible. He wants to ask a few questions of you.
What do you want to know, Mr. Wilson?
You know about the body that was discovered yesterday, Mrs. Rankin?
Yes.
Yes, my husband killed him.
Did you ever meet the deceased?
No, I never met him.
Have you seen the body?
Liar.
No.
Well, then, how can you be sure you never met him?
Of course, I can't be certain. Mr. Wilson, do you suspect me of something? If so, what?
Of shielding a murderer. Perhaps this photograph will refresh your memory. Do you recognize this man? That is Conrad Meineke, commander in charge of one of the more efficient concentration camps. You know him, don't you? You have met him here in Harper.
No. I've never seen that man, Mr. Wilson.
Judge, would you mind putting out the lights? I've been showing your father some films, and I'd like you to see them, too. I'm on the Allied Commission for the Punishment of War Criminals.
Mm-hmm.
It's my job to bring escaped Nazis to justice. It's that job that brought me to Harper.
Well, surely you don't think that... Mr. Wilson, I've never so much as even seen a Nazi.
Well, you might without you realizing it. They look like other people and act like other people when it's to their benefit. Gas chamber, Mrs. Rankin. The candidates were first given hot showers so that their pores would be open and the gas would act that much more quickly. And this is a lime pit in which hundreds of men, women, and children were buried alive.
Why do you want me to look at these horrors?
All this you're seeing, it's all the product of one mind. The mind of a man named Franz Kindler.
Franz Kindler?
Yes, he was the most brilliant of the younger minds from the Nazi Party. It was Kindler who conceived the theory of genocide, mass depopulation of conquered countries.
Horrible.
So that regardless of who won the war, Germany would emerge the strongest nation in Western Europe, biologically speaking. Unlike Goebbels, Himmler, and the rest of them, Kindler had a passion for anonymity. The newspapers carried no picture of him. Oh, no, and just before he disappeared, he destroyed every evidence that might link him with his past, down to the last fingerprint. There's no clue to the identity of Franz Kindler, except one little thing. He has a hobby that almost amounts to a mania. Clocks.
So have lots of people. You yourself.
Well, I'm not quite finished, Mrs. Rankin. In prison,
Everybody loves
in
clocks.
Czechoslovakia,
Come on.
a war criminal was awaiting execution. This was Konrad Meineke, one-time executive officer for Franz Kindler. He was an obscenity on the face of the earth. The stench of burning flesh was in his clothes. But we gave him his freedom on the chance that he might lead me to Kindler. He led me here, Mrs. Rankin. And here I lost him. Until yesterday. Your dog Red found him for me. But unfortunately, Meineke was dead and buried. Now, in all the world, there's only one person who can identify Franz Kindler. That person is the one who knows definitely who Meineke came to Harper to see.
No, he's not a Nazi. My Charles is not a Nazi.
You were in Rankin's house during the afternoon of the day you
Where? Where?
Rankin's house.
Oh, yes, yes.
Did anyone come while you were there?
Not that I remember.
Now, try hard to remember. It's not so long ago. Only 2 weeks. You were hanging curtains.
No one came.
Were you alone all the time?
No.
Who else was there?
Charles. He came right after his last class, and we were together for more than an hour. You have nothing to link my husband with this man, Kindler, except a wild suspicion. It's a ridiculous suspicion.
More
You're trying to
lies.
use me to implicate him, and you can't.
Lies.
You can't involve me in a lie, and that's all it is a lie. It's a lie, you know. It's a lie. It's a lie.
Mary. Wait a minute, Mary. Mary. Wait a minute, sister.
It's really weird. It must be some northeastern thing where fathers call their daughters sister and daughters call their fathers by their first name. I thought just interesting little tidbit in this film.
You know that your welfare and Noah's means more to me than anything, don't you?
Yes. Yes.
You've got to face this thing with complete honesty, sister. Your entire happiness may well depend on your telling me the absolute truth. Mr. Wilson is right.
And you have innocently married a criminal? Well, then there is no marriage. There's no call upon your loyalty as a wife.
He's good.
No, he's not.
He's good. He wouldn't hurt anybody except to protect somebody he loved. He's good.
Well, then the truth can't hurt him. Charles was not with you that afternoon, sister. I remember you saying so when you came home.
You're against him too,
Great
Adam.
shot.
Yes, you are. You've never liked him. That's why you don't believe me now. Leave us alone, Adam. He's not a Nazi. He's not one of those people. He's not. Leave us alone.
She has the facts now. But she won't accept them. They're too horrible for her to acknowledge. Not so much that Rankin could be Kindler, but that she could ever have given her love to such a creature. But we have one ally, her subconscious.
Yeah, exactly.
It knows what the truth is and is struggling to be heard. The will to truth within your daughter is much too strong to be denied.
Look here, Wilson. If he's not Charles Rankin, we should be able to expose him without too much difficulty.
I'm not interested in proving that he isn't Charles Rankin. I'm only interested in proving that he's Franz Kindler.
How do you propose to do that?
Through your daughter.
Psychological
Unless I'm mistaken,
warfare.
she's headed for a breakdown. That's the usual result of a person being inwardly divided. Rankin will recognize this, and that's what I'm banking on.
What do you mean?
Back to your
Can't
standard
afford to
OTS,
trust the person approaching his tyranny.
OTS.
He won't. He'll have to act.
Flip around.
He may try to escape before she collapses, which would only be an admission of guilt. Or,
Go on.
he may kill her. You're shocked at my cold-bloodedness. Well, that's quite natural. You're a father. It's because you are a father, Judge Longstreet, that I'm talking to you like this. Naturally, we'll try to prevent murder being done. However, the proof that murder is his aim would be the strongest evidence that your daughter could have.
Charles.
Listen, strike. For 100 years after more than...
It was a trap, Charles, just like you said. Mr. Wilson was there. He tried to tell me that you were a Nazi. And I was supposed to believe it. Imagine you being an escaped Nazi.
Nazi.
Oh, he thinks he's very clever, that Wilson. His idea was to horrify me into telling him about the little man.
Who did he say he thought I was?
A Nazi.
A Nazi.
Franz Kindler. He made it all up just to trick me. But I didn't tell him anything, and I didn't tell Father anything. I outfaced both of them, Charles.
She's losing her mind.
It'll be simple enough to prove you're not that Nazi. We'll just find someone who was in your class at college, and he'll identify you, and that's all there'll be to it.
What you say is true. He can't touch me. I'm quite safe if you say nothing.
Oh, I won't, Charles. I promise I won't. They can torture him, and I won't tell them anything.
These great angles that are showing the psychological difference between them two. Notice he's perched up above her. Another great shot.
We must go down and greet them.
You must act natural. Smile at them, understand?
Yes.
Are you all right?
Yes, I'm all right. We'll face them, darling.
And when she struck that angel-starred marching,
Yeah.
it was a sight to behold.
She's
Professor, you
turning.
sure knocked it off. My hat's off to you.
Congratulations, Mr. Rankin.
What the rector? Did he like
Nice
it?
going.
What I want to know is, if she's going to chime all night long, how's the body going to get any sleep?
We'll face them, darling. All of them.
Them chickens of yours is going to be on and off roost every 15 minutes. That's a bit
Sarah, I've told you I want these curtains drawn. I don't like the sunlight streaming in. It's bad for them.
Mary, that's rubbish and you know it. Up at the other house, we never closed the curtains.
That has nothing to do with it. This is my house, and I want them gone.
Suit yourself, then.
Going
Going to party room
crazy.
for the party?
Is it that time already?
Great shot. It's beautiful framing.
Were you able to see when they opened the grave, Mr. Randall? Was it too horrible?
Well, not the most pleasant sight.
Oh, there's Mary. Hello, Mary.
Filling out prescriptions, that's part of this business of hate. Sleeping pills, that's another.
Mrs. Rankin.
$1.65.
Okay.
Want 'em wrapped?
No, thanks.
Sleeping pills. Don't approve of 'em.
No.
Man does a day's work, man gets a night's sleep. Leastways he could until that clock starts bonging every...
I believe Mrs. Rankin ordered some ice cream.
Ice cream?
Yeah.
Already gone. Fella said he was going past your house, so I give it to him. Mr. Wilson.
That sly devil, Mr. Wilson.
Mrs. Rankin.
Wouldn't dream of setting foot outside the house unless Fred were along. Who knows? He might be anywhere. The murderer, I mean. Waiting for a new victim.
I hope you haven't forgotten you were kind enough to invite me, Mrs. Rankin.
Oh, no, of course not, Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Potter asked me to deliver this.
Oh, the ice cream's good. Sarah's waiting for it.
I hope it hasn't melted. Well, I won't detain you any longer.
Yes.
I have a drink for you.
Oh, just the medicine I need.
You know Dr. Hippard?
Oh, yes, of course. How are you, Doctor?
Excuse me. Yes, sure. Grandma Lawrence, can I get you something?
Oh, nothing more, thank you, dear.
Where's Dr. Rankin?
Oh, he'll be here in just a few minutes.
I want to have a word with him about that clock.
Yes.
Yeah. Now that he fixed it, everybody hates him.
Yes, on my last trip. May I get you some tea?
And Jack Philippa. And what was that Frenchman's name? Oh, hello, dear.
Hello.
Landru. Yes, there may well be 10 or a dozen graves out there in those woods.
Autopsy showed the murder was committed just 3 weeks ago.
May I get you some more
wasn't
tea?
it?
Oh, thank you, no.
Jeff, may I get you another
I wish I
drink?
could remember what Emerson says about crime. Oh, there's Rankin. He may know.
Sorry to be late.
I'm fine, thanks.
Hello, everybody.
Darling?
Oh, hello there, Rankin.
How are you, Mr. Wilson?
You know the quotation?
The Hibbert?
Emerson.
Quotation?
Commit a crime and the earth is made of glass.
No, I don't.
Commit a crime and the earth is made of glass. Commit a crime. Commit a crime and it seems as if a coat of snow fell on the ground, such as reveals in the woods the track of every partridge and fox and squirrel and mole. You cannot recall the spoken word. You cannot wipe out the foot track. You cannot draw up the ladder so as to leave no inlet or clue.
You're Mr. Wilson, aren't you? Do you know you're our #1 suspect in our murder case?
Oh?
So far, you're the only suspect. Potter put the finger on you. He thinks you committed the crime to get possession of some priceless
Want a
antique.
drink, Mr. Wilson?
Mr. Rankin, I wish you left that clock alone. Hopper was a nice, quiet place until it started banging.
Mary, what's Wilson doing here?
I don't know.
It's good
You
color to
invited him to the
develop
show?
the
What's he after?
characters.
I don't know.
That dialogue.
Are you all right?
Yes, quite all right.
Now remember, Friday, Mary.
Yes, all right.
Good night.
Friday. Friday.
Get out of here.
Good night.
Get out of my house.
May I help you again?
No.
Starting to accept
Mary.
the facts.
Mary. All right, dear.
Starting to make this twist in her brain. Nice, cool push in. Close up.
It
To
broke.
fade.
And the beads fell all over the floor. He took her upstairs. When I left, I could still hear her crying.
Well, the floodgates have opened.
Mm-hmm.
Our subconscious is almost won. Now on, we must know every move that Mrs. Rankin makes. She's never to leave the house unless I know where she's going. If for any reason I can't be found, she's to be detained, no matter on what pretext. Understand, Sarah?
Don't worry. She won't get by me.
When she snapped those beads, she signed her own death warrant. We're carrying her life in our hands. Every time she walks on a slippery sidewalk, is near something that can fall, drives an automobile, anything that could result in accidental
Understand
death.
this way of thinking
Her
when they
life is
just
in
arrest
danger.
the guy. And
Listen, She won't get by me.
Prove it. Somehow. Hey, Aaron. Would that be considered foreshadow?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Today we will attempt to finish with the career of Friedrich the Grosser, König von Preußen, Kurfürst von Brandenburg, Prince von Poland. Frederick the Great to you.
860. It's Orson Welles is the director. He's actually the actor here too. Would hesitate. I don't know who I'd rank above each other. They're equally impressive auteur directors.
Can you hear me, dear? Can't speak very loudly where I am, but I want you to understand this. Something very important has come up. You must come to the church immediately. The church tower. Understand?
Yes, I understand.
I don't want anybody to know that you're going there. Mary, don't tell anybody you're going. Go to the church tower and leave your car in the rear and come in through the back door. Okay? Right.
One thing you'll notice from how much tighter the close-ups are starting to get on the two main characters, or at least the
What's that, Mr. Peabody? Your move, Bessie.
Gone someplace? Where to? Well, I asked you where you was going, Miss Mary.
I heard.
Well?
Sarah, you seem to forget I'm no longer a child. I'm a married woman.
Well, you ain't been married very long. Wait, Mrs. Rankin.
What is it? I'm in a hurry.
Well, you don't need to go biting my head off.
What is it, Sarah?
Well, I don't...
If you've got something to say, say it. What is it, Sarah?
I don't know what's got into you lately. Indeed, I don't. You never was mean to me like this back at the old house.
Sarah,
Maybe I've outworn my usefulness. I'm not as young as I used to be. Maybe you don't want me around anymore.
For heaven's sake, stop talking such nonsense.
Well, it's true, and you know it. I'm going to pack my things and leave here. Indeed, I am.
Sarah, I'm sorry if I've hurt your feelings. I didn't mean to. Really, I didn't. Sarah. Now, I couldn't get along without you, and you know that, don't you? Well, don't you?
Honest, Miss Mary?
Yes, honestly, Sarah.
Oh, Miss Mary. Oh, Miss Mary.
Sarah, please, wait just a minute. Sarah, you'll never leave me, will you?
You know how I feel about you, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Like you was my own daughter,
Yes,
my own little girl. How could I?
Sarah, I've got to go now. Really, I do. I've promised to be somewhere.
Well, where
tension.
to, Miss Mary?
tension.
Stop fussing, Sarah. It's a secret. What's the matter? Sarah, what's the matter?
My heart.
What's the matter?
I can't breathe. Pain.
Oh.
No, Miss Mary, please don't leave me. No, don't leave me.
Lie right there and keep quiet. Keep quiet now, Sarah.
Maybe I'm dying.
You're
Miss
not
Mary.
dying. No, please.
Yes, Mary?
Look, I was supposed to meet Charles at the clock tower right away, and I can't get there. Will you go and tell him to please wait for me? And no one's to know where or why you're going. It's important.
All right. Two, 3-8, please.
Junior detective on the case.
Hello, may I speak to Mr. Wilson?
Looks like it's coming up for snow.
Yes, that's right.
That's a good question, Z. Not really. You mean when she had her back turned towards the camera? And I mean maybe through the other. I have to double look at it.
Oh.
Mrs. Rand, Mrs. Lundstrom, isn't it after hours? You ladies are working too hard at the library.
Oh, no, Mr. Rankin. We closed as usual at 3:30.
You're perfectly right. I dismissed class 10 minutes early. Yes. It's 3:44. I was playing checkers with Mr. Potter, and I didn't realize.
You know what you are, Mr. Rankin. You're the absent-minded professor.
All right, here we get to these really cool angled shots. This goes on for the rest of the movie. That would definitely be a high-angle bird's-eye view, right? And we're tracking the character up the ladder. Now we've got a low angle up. Yes, it is too wobbly. It's even especially wobbly. I don't know if you saw where he was doing that right there. Cutting the wobbly ladder. Yeah, it does really look. I wouldn't climb that ladder if it was brand new. Up to that.
Mr. Hill. I'm sorry, Mr. Potter, I can't find him. What? The earmuffs. It's right over there by the mittens. Come on, Mr. Potter, help us look. Well, I'll be right back in a minute, Professor. Right over there by that box where I told you.
Hey, that's an over-the-shoulder right there, Z. And there's nobody there. There's your insert.
85 cents. That's an awful lot. Well, they come
Back to that. Looking good.
You want this thing?
Oh, I'll keep it. You know, Mr. Potter, you're a bad influence. I intended only to spend a couple of minutes. You made me spend the whole afternoon. Look what time it is.
Yeah. I'd like to get even.
It's your move.
You really had the wind up.
Golly.
You can still smell the glue where you joined it.
Look there, Professor. Like I told you, it's coming up for snow. Look here, Professor. Double or nothing?
Afternoon, Mr. Potter.
And we'll get to the finale. I should have pointed out when Act 3 really started. It was at that party. Great cast shadow.
Charles?
Film noir.
He didn't go to church.
No, Sarah.
Sarah? What about Sarah?
Well, just as I was leaving, Sarah had some kind of an attack. She's resting now, yes. And Jeff said it wasn't very serious, but that I should stay with her.
Mm-hmm.
What's the matter, Charles?
Nothing's the matter.
Why did you want me to go to the church? You said it was important.
It was important. Nothing extra. It's my sense of proportion is failing me these days.
Please, Charles, what is it?
I'm sorry.
She still hasn't made the
Just begun to feel
switch.
strain. You see, I have my weak moments too. I'll tell you of my own good.
They found out anything more?
No, nothing. There's nothing to find out, unless you.
I don't know. I haven't seen anybody all day. I've been in my room.
There's a rumor going around that there's an arrest to be made. My head aches. The incident of the beads yesterday made me doubt your strength. I thought maybe you'd gone to your father and told him something. If you had...
You didn't have to be afraid.
No?
Why did you tell Noah?
Hmm? Why, what about?
Didn't you see him?
No, why should I see Noah?
Well, did you come here directly from the church?
Am I being cross-examined?
Oh, no, but when I found I couldn't leave Sarah, I called Noah and told him to go there and tell him I was detained.
I told you not to call anybody.
Oh, but surely Noah...
Call him and tell him not to go.
Well, I can't. I talked to him over...
Call him, I say!
He's gone!
If he dies, his blood will be on your hands.
What are you saying?
It's your meddling that's done this. I'd have been all right if it wasn't for you. So that you had to be here. On that day. Calling Noah!
Did you kill Noah?
Yes, if he goes to the church and climbs up that ladder!
Great shot. I love it. Which
you
jumps
intended to
back
kill
and the camera
Orson?
pops.
No.
Why wasn't it I? Franz Kinder!
Nice.
Kill me. Kill me, I want you to. I couldn't face life knowing what I've been to you and what I've done to Noah. But when you kill me, don't put your hands on me. Here. Use this.
Mary. Operator. Operator, get me the state police. Yes, the roadblocks.
That was a really cool
We're watching the railroad
out of
station, and he
focus
isn't hiding in the woods.
transition. Rarely used. Thought they killed her there for a second, didn't you?
God loves me. God wants me.
You get Wilson, Noah. I'll go for the police.
The music's building up.
Well, if he is what I think he is, it's going to be easy. We'll do everything possible to bring him back.
She's gone, Mr. Wilson. She's not in the house.
Clock tower? I don't know. Well, if that's what he's hiding, if she gets there before us...
What'll we do?
Call Captain Samuels and the deputies. Get all the help you can. Where?
Ouch.
The church. What about you? I'll get there. Now, hurry up now. What are your sister maybe still alive?
Yeah. I couldn't do it. I just wouldn't even just yell. I would yell from the bottom anything I needed to say.
I have a gun.
You don't need it. I'm alone.
What are you doing here?
Lift me up.
She is a trusting sort.
You're telling the truth?
Why should I lie?
Because he tried to kill you.
You were followed here?
I came by our way. Through the cemetery. No one saw me. I needed the excuse. I was afraid you would let me out.
What do you want?
I came to kill you.
Definitely femme fatale trope.
No, Mary, it's you that's going to die.
You were meant to fall through that ladder.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to fall.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind if I take you with me.
You are a fool.
I searched the woods. I watched them here like God looking into the lands. I'll hide in the woods and search there again. A day or two, they'll be sure I got out of
When
town.
they find me, they'll know you're still here.
But darling, you're on the verge of a breakdown. Now you've cracked. Why else would you leave your bed? Climb to an empty church door in the dead of night. Any child could see you'd wind up killing yourself.
Killing is what led you here. It won't help you now. Look out the window. Look!
Well, that's an old trick, Mr. Wilson. A very poor trick.
Tricks. That's all you know is tricks. I don't need any tricks. No matter what happens to me, tricks won't do you any good.
Tricks are for kids.
You're finished, Herr Franz Kindler. The citizens of Harper. They've come after you. The plain little ordinary people, the ones you've been laughing at, Herr Franz Kindler. Well, you can't fool them anymore. Oh, sure, you can kill me, Mary, half the people down there. But there's no escape. You have the world, and it closed in on you till there was only Harper. That closed in on you, and there was only this room.
Such great fun.
And this room, too, is closing in on you.
It's not true, the things they say I did. It's all their idea. I followed orders.
You gave the orders.
I only did my duty. Don't send me back to them. I can't face them. I'm not a criminal.
You are.
Oh! She just started shooting all crazy.
Give me that gun.
Where's his gun? Why didn't he bring a gun? Oh! Yeah. The clock never worked again after that.
All right, Mr. Wilson, Mary's sake, let me give you a hand.
No, thanks.
Hi, what happened?
V-Day in Harper.
Don't get that. Come on down.
Not till you get me a new ladder. I've had my ankle busted and my head conked. From here on in, my friends, I'm taking it easy.
Well, Well, I'll get you another ladder, Mr. Wilson. You've had enough trouble.
Good night, Mary. Pleasant dreams.
And the end. Something. Something to talk about here real quick. Get out of here, Mel. So something that was interesting, and this is a classical thing about, not classical, but this is a common thing for films of that era. The abrupt ending. The tension just built and built and built, and it was a slow burning tension. And then it just kept ramping up, and then boom, and then there's one line, couple of lines that the main antagonist, protagonist, wherever you want to put him, there's a couple lines at the very end, and then there's just cut, boom, no fade out, nothing, just cut, no de-establishing shot, no shot of the city as it fades out, none of that. And again, there's the one, that Sherlock Holmes movie did it too. I watched another Sherlock Holmes film last night. It was just, after it was all over, just cut. No letting you get back into it. Very abrupt ending to the increasing tension, like a ladder almost. The tension of the ladder. Well, obviously, let's go through this real quick again for you kids who are watching from school. Definitely a classical film, falls right in the classical type of film. Lots of varied shots. Using the clock tower as the basically the MacGuffin. I mean, it's not a true MacGuffin, but using the clock tower as the pivot of the arc around the clock tower allowed him to have these really crazy angled shots, very high, very low angled shots, angles. The lighting, chiaroscuro classical lighting. I mean, it was there. Silhouette and black lighting, which we would normally what we know as film noir. I mean, that's one of the elements of that genre. Film noir is that silhouetted looking lighting, very harsh. Now, somebody earlier in the chat, I think it was Ben, said something about how did they make sure that all the lighting, without being able to see it through the camera. Well, they could see through the camera, even though it was in color. It was just part of the system that was developed in Hollywood through the 20s and 30s into the 40s. And Orson Welles was definitely a big player as an actor, even before even being a director. So it was a standardized thing. Obviously, there were people who were better at it than others, and you look at some other noir film from this era, and you can definitely see the people who weren't as good at it. But it was kind of a formula. They had a way to know, if I set this light 15 feet at this angle over here, this is and it has this intensity, this temperature. This is going to give us this amount of contrast and chiaroscuro lighting. Obviously, there's no color. I thought the sound was really good. I think the music was really good. Pretty standard continuity editing, classical. There were some associative edits. One in particular when he's looking at the postcard, and then it cuts to that image of the town from the postcard. That was a pretty noticeable one. And then I'll make this last little comment to think about, and that was the sound of it. There was no narrator's commentary, which again was a lot of the noir film we've seen. Even when we watched The Maltese Falcon in class, there was some very early, I I gotta remember, was there? I thought there was some non-diegetic sound in that. I feel like there was right in the beginning. Some narrator voice over. But that's what we're talking about. When we say non-diegetic, it is usually a narrator, somebody outside. And it's usually exposition. It's usually information about the narrative that we never actually see on camera. All right. Any questions? I don't know who's all out there. If there's anybody out there, there's Z. Anybody have any questions? I'll give it a few minutes. If you are in my class and you're watching this, don't forget to turn in your paper tomorrow, your critique of Sherlock Holmes and the House of Fear. All right. Maybe no questions, may not. Anybody there? All right, Z, cool. All right, guys, I love you. We'll do this again soon. Have a great rest of your afternoon, and see you later.